Videotapes. We've made over 1 million videos now in 6 languages. They're not copyrighted. They're not copyrighted. All right, welcome to our next class on CSE 103. Last week we talked a little bit about communism and how its influence is dependent on the evolution philosophy. Now we're going to continue. We left off talking a little bit about the money and how money is controlled. And we have, totally unknowingly to most people, we've lost all of our money. We're carrying around paper, and we all think we still have money. And we have been totally, completely robbed of information going around. Okay, Karl Marx's next plank in the Communist Manifesto. We've been going through his 10 planks in the Communist Manifesto. Number 6 was government ownership of communication and transportation. Right now, the government owns just about every car in the United States. You probably think that you own a car, but you don't. When the car was manufactured, a certificate of, I think they call it a certificate of manufacture, was created. It was sent to when the car entered the state of Florida, the state of Florida kept the certificate of origination, is what it's called. They issue a certificate of title. You then, when you bought the car, they gave you a certificate of title. Now, if you buy a brand new car, only if you buy a new car, and only if you pay for it with silver or gold, then you can demand that you get the certificate of origination. Now you really own the car. You don't have to buy license plates. You don't have to, because really, buying a license plate is renting the car off of the state for a year. And in some states, the license plates are incredibly expensive. I mean, like in California, if you own a new car, they rate it by how much the car weighs and how many horsepower it is, and just your plates might be $400 a year, every year. So the government right now has control of transportation. This is one of the Communist Manifesto planks, and we have slowly allowed this to happen and not realize what we've done. Very few people even realize this has already been accomplished. The goal was to accomplish all these things with the least amount of waves, and so the fewest possible people understand what's happening. And it has worked. Government ownership of factories and agriculture. And there's been an enormous amount of work in that. There's stories told of, there are so many agricultural agents that are regulating these farmers. The farmers are under so many regulations. They have to get their aid without witnesses. So that way, that's a fail-safe method, I think. And Ray Comfort in California, my crazy friend Ray Comfort, has a great message on that. You can get a hold of raycomfort.com and get some of his. He's got tremendous messages on. You never met him, have you, Eric? You need to go out there and meet him. Next time you're in Southern California, you got to meet Ray Comfort. The guy's, he's crazy. Anyway, number 4, divide the people into hostile groups. Get them to argue about subjects like race. Quite a while. That's really kind of stupid, like the O.J. Simpson thing. Almost a year of all kinds of coverage on O.J. Simpson. Anytime you see that, antennas ought to go up and you ought to think, okay, what are they trying to cover up? What they were covering up in that case was Bill Clinton's trying to give China most favored nation status and trying to give a Los Angeles port to China. They were going to allow the communist Chinese to have some property in Los Angeles. Well, guess what they would do? They would bring in drugs by the boatload. So many folks that have whole ministries dealing with what's happening, United Nations, and Chuck Baldwin does a great job on that. You heard me on his program the other day. He said he can give you lots more information on this. Okay, here's President of CBS News, Richard Salant, former president. He said, our job is to give people not what they want, but what we decide they ought to have. Manage the news for them, just like in the Soviet Union. The New York Times is deliberately pitched to the liberal, that's socialist, point of view. New York Times, certainly a liberal paper. News reporters are certainly liberal. Shoney's Inn, out Highway 10, Interstate 10, and by Shoney's restaurant. He spoke several years ago on voter fraud. I went out to hear him speak. He said that they had gone, during the primary, when Pat Buchanan was running to be presidential candidate, they suspected voter fraud because every place the votes were hand counted, Buchanan won. If the computer counted them, Bob Dole won. So he said that they went to some place where they have these voting machines. After the primary's over, Bob Dole won, you know, and then lost the presidential race. They went to this place and they got 10 ballots and marked them all. Pat Buchanan, Pat Buchanan, Pat Buchanan. Fed them into the machine. 6 of them registered for Bob Dole. Now, somebody who has no morals, like Bill Clinton, they're not above this. Figure out some way to get into the voting system and control it. And all the people think, well, I voted for the right guy. Yeah, but your vote didn't do anything. So really, all you need is a few people in key places who can control who's counting the votes or how they're counted. Or better yet, what if you just got to the people in Mexico that create the voting software that counts the votes? That the, computer's going to count it? Well, computers, garbage in, garbage out. Suppose you could write the software in such a way that all you had to do was give it a secret code and it would make the election come out the way you wanted it. Many people think that is what's happened. That has been what has happened here in America. Number 8, calls to registration. Bill Clinton, former President of the United States of America, people say, oh, why did you misspell it on there? Oh, no, it's not misspelled. He's a communist through and through, okay? Clinton's philosophy is certainly communistic. Hillary's worse. Clinton said, and we should, then every community in the country could start doing major weapons sweeps and then destroying the weapons, not selling them. The idea is to destroy the weapons. Australia had gun control. In the first 12 months after China established gun control in 1935, and for the next few years, 20 million political dissidents unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. Guatemala established gun control in 1964. Over the next 16 years, 100,000 Mayan Indians unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. Uganda established gun control in 1970. For the next 8 years, 300,000 Christians unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. Cambodia established gun control in 1956. 1975 to 77, 1 million educated people unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. Defenseless people rounded up and exterminated in the 20th century because of gun control, 56 million. Next time someone talks in favor of gun control, ask them, who do you want to round up and exterminate? With guns, we are citizens. Without guns, we are subjects. Our founding fathers were sharp. They said, look, you have to allow people to defend themselves. There are many people in our government who have a communist philosophy, whether they know it or not. They might not even know it. But they do have a communist philosophy which leads right to this idea, we really ought to take away everybody's guns. Only the UN should have guns because we can trust them. Oh, yeah, right. Okay. The plan is very simple. The communists have used this for years. You create a crisis, and then you bring in your solution. Hitler blew up the government building, the Reichstag. He blew it up himself, or had his people blow it up. And then he said, wow, look at this, terrorists, that means we need more gun control. Everything that happened at Waco and at Oklahoma City was all part of the same thing. It was purposely done to cause people to panic and give up their rights and establish more gun control. Long stories can be told about that, okay?